Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and it's a dark and miserable day here in Yorkshire today. It's raining outside, it's all overcast and miserable. You won't believe past 11 o'clock in the morning, and look how dark it is. I've had to put my light on to illuminate my ugly face. But anyway, got a bit of news for you today. Quite a bit of news, to be honest. So let's just get on with it. Some of it's controversial, some of it isn't. We've got some news from Bounding into Comics, which is always controversial. But let's just hit the intro, and then we'll have a read. Right, I'm back. So first up, when I can find my mouse clicks, there we go. First up from Bounding into Comics. By the way, all the links are in the description below. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos and hit the notification bell so you're informed of when I upload new stuff or go live, which I don't do as often these days. It's mostly my appointment with Fears on Friday night that I do live. But anyway, and also visit me on my social medias and interact with me if you want to. And what else? Yes, and if you're listening to me on the Anchor.fm and Spotify. On Spotify, though, you can actually watch me because they allow videos on Spotify now. And what else? Google Podcasts and Amazon Music. If you're listening on there, I don't. Can you hit like on that? I don't know. I can't remember. But do the appropriate things if you like what you're hearing. Right, so off we go. Bounding into Comics. Rings of Power showrunner provides bogus answer for decision to include a wizard. And there's the stranger. Spoilers, if you haven't seen the Rings of Power. The final episode, we found out who Sauron was. We found out that the stranger was apparently a wizard. A famous wizard that we know. Didn't say it outright, but it kind of intimated that it was. I'll say it. It's Gandalf. Let's just not beat about the bush. Right. Anyway, so what has John F. Trent got to say? Right. The Lord of the Rings. Just make sure you can read that. Yes. The Lord of the Rings of Power showrunner J.D. Payne provided another bogus answer as to why he and his co-showrunner Patrick McCasey. I can't even say the names. And Prime Video decided to include a wizard in the show. The Rings of Power includes a character the show calls the Stranger, played by Daniel Wayman. A portion of the story follows this character's story as he arrives on Middle-earth as Comet or Meteor, and then aids the hobbits in their migration and eventually defends them from a number of minions of Sauron who were tracking him and believed he was Sauron. When asked by Vulture's Jack McHenry as to why one of these Starry is included in the show that is set in Tolkien's Second Age, Payne replied, "When we were laying out the menu, so to speak, that we felt would be in a classic Tolkienian epic, there were certain ingredients that would have to be part of it. Elves, dwarves, halflings in the form of Harfoots. It was hard for us to think of a Middle-earth tale that did not have a wizard in it. Why not just," this is me, by the way, "why not just go with what the books say? You know, the books that you have rights to," which I believe this article comes to shortly. "And just include the characters that are in those. If there's no, halflings in, don't have them. If there's no wizards in, don't have them. Don't include them just because they're familiar and they were in the Peter Jackson trilogy, which you claim not to be doing a sequel to or emulating, but yet you are." Anyway. Payne continued, "We also found hints within the text that while the wizard's most prominent role was in the Third Age, some of these Starry wandered unknown among the beings of Middle-earth even earlier than that." That's technically true. I'm not an expert on Tolkien. I've not even read the books apart from The Hobbit, but you just have to look up, the various Tolkien wikis to get the information, which I think that's what they've done. I don't think they've really read the books. I think they've done quick internet searches for information. And apparently, Gandalf, before he was known as Gandalf, did visit the elves and stay with the elves and do other things. and it was only in the Third Age when the wizards were sent as wizards to Middle Earth to help the against the darkness. Anyway, right, finally he concluded, whether that's one of the ones that are named, like Gandalf or Saruman, or one of the other ones, we will leave to the series to unveil. It's Gandalf, follow your nose. That's Gandalf, isn't it? This answer is completely bogus, as it directly contradicts Tolkien's writings. Not only that, but it is another piece of an ever-growing mound of evidence that Payne and his co-showrunner Patrick McKay are simply liars. Ooh. First, McKay and Payne previously indicated the show did not have the rights to a number of Tolkien's writings, such as the Silmarillion or Unfinished Tales. But they did have the rights to the Lord of the Rings books proper, as well as their appendices. Payne told Vanity Fair in February, we have the rights solely to the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, the appendices, and the Hobbit, and that is it. We do not have the rights to the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, the History of Middle-earth, and any of those other books. McKay would elaborate, saying, there's a version of everything we need for the Second Age in the books we have the rights to. As long as we're painting within those lines and not egregiously contradicting something we don't have the rights to, there's a lot of leeway and room to dramatise and tell some of the best stories that Tolkien ever came up with, he added. Basically, they've got the rights to make things up. They've got the material in, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the appendices, but anything else that's to do with the Second Age, they can just make up. That's what they're saying. Right, back to the article. They did not paint within the lines when it comes to the inclusion of this Istari, and it directly contradicts what J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in Appendix B concerning the arrival of the Istari to Middle-earth during the Third Age. In the second paragraph of Appendix B, which is subtitled The Third Age, Tolkien wrote, when maybe 1,000 years had passed, and the first shadow had fallen on Greenwood the Great, the Istari or wizards appeared in Middle-earth. Tolkien continued, it was afterwards said that they came out of the far west and were messengers sent to contest the power of Sauron and to unite all those who had the will to resist him. But they were forbidden to match his power with power, or to seek to dominate elves or men by force and fear. Tolkien further detailed, they came therefore in the shape of men, though they were never young and aged slowly, and they had many powers of mind and hand. They revealed their true names to a few, but used such names as were given to them. The two highest of this order, of whom it is said there were 5, were called by the Eldar Curinir. I'm pronouncing all that wrong because there's a lot of rolled R's in Tolkien, isn't there? And I can't roll my R's. The Man of Skill, and Mithrandir, the Grey Pilgrim, but by men in the north, Saruman and Gandalf. Curinir, it'll be Curinir, journeyed often into the east, but dwelt at last in Isengard. Mithrandir was closest in friendship with the Eldar, and wandered mostly in the west, and never made for himself any lasting abode, Tolkien explained. This is probably why they call him the Grey Pilgrim. By 1100 of the Third Age, the wise, the Istari and the chief Eldar discovered that an evil power had made a stronghold at Dol Guldur. It is thought to be one of the Nazgul. In letter 144 to Naomi Mitchison, Tolkien also noted... What's that? That's a weird noise then. Also noted, their origin was not known to any but a few, such as Elrond and Galadriel in the Third Age. They are said to have first appeared about the year 1000 of the Third Age, when the shadow of Sauron began to first grow again to new shape. He continued, they always appeared old, but grew older with their labours, slowly, and disappeared with the end of the rings. They were thought to be emissaries in the terms of this tale from the far west beyond the sea, and their proper function, maintained by Gandalf and perverted by Saruman, was to encourage and bring out the native powers of the enemies of Sauron. Gandalf's opposite was strictly Sauron in one part of Sauron's operations, as Aragorn was in another. While the Astari in physical form did not arrive in Middle-earth until around the year 1000 of the Third Age, Gandalf as a Maiar, known as Olorin, did indeed have contact with the peoples of Middle-earth, specifically the Eldar. In The Lord of the Rings, The Two Tower, Faramir reveals that Gandalf went by the name of Olorin. Tolkien wrote, Mithrandir we called him in elf fashion, said Faramir, and he was content. Many are my names in many countries, he said. Mithrandir among the elves, Tharkun to the dwarves, Olorin I was in my youth in the west that is forgotten. In the south, in Canis, in the north, Gandalf, to the east I go not. In the Silmarillion, it's revealed Olorin was one of the Maiar, Tolkien wrote. Wisest of the Maiar was Olorin. He too dwelt in Lorien, but his ways took him often to the house of Nienna, and of her he learned pity and patience. Of Milian much is told in the Quenta Silmarillion, but of Olorin that tale does not speak. For though he loved the elves, he walked among them unseen, or in form as one of them, and they did not know whence came the fair visions or the promptings of wisdom that he put into their hearts. In later days he was the friend of all the children of Ilúvatar, and took pity on their sorrows. And those who listened to him awoke from despair, and put away the imaginations of darkness, Tolkien detailed. It's clear the Astari did not wander Middle-earth before they arrived in the Third Age around the year 1000. However, while they were in non-physical forms, they did mingle with other peoples of Middle-earth. However, the Rings of Power clearly shows an Astari in physical form and not an incarnate angel, as Tolkien described them in Letter 156 to Father Robert Murray. Tolkien detailed the nature of these Astari to Father Robert Murray, writing, They are naturally no precise modern terms to say what he was. I don't know what that means. I would venture, sorry, it's abbreviation, isn't it? I would venture to say that he was an incarnate angel, strictly and however you pronounce that. That is, with the other Istari wizards, those who know, an emissary from the Lords of the West, sent to Middle-earth, as the great crisis of Sauron loomed on the horizon. By incarnate, I mean they were embodied in physical bodies capable of pain and weariness, and of afflicting the spirit with physical fear, and of being killed. Though supported by the angelic spirit, they might endure long, and only show slowly the wearing of care and labour. He further explained why they should take such a form is bound up with the mythology of the angelic powers of the world of this fable. At this point in the fabulous history, the purpose was precisely to limit and hinder their exhibition of power on the physical plane, and so that they should do what they were primarily sent for. Train, advise, instruct, arouse the hearts and minds of those threatened by Sauron to a resistance with their own strengths, and not just to do the job for them. They thus appeared as old sage figures, he elaborated, but in this mythology, all the angelic powers concerned with this world were capable of many degrees of error and failing. Between the absolute satanic rebellion and evil of Morgoth and his satellite Sauron, and the fainéance of some of the other higher powers or gods, the wizards were not exempt. Indeed, being incarnate, were more likely to stray or err. Gandalf alone fully passes the tests on a moral plane anyway. He makes mistakes of judgment. It's not hard to think of a Middle-earth tale without the Istari. Tolkien wrote it in the Silmarillion. He makes it abundantly clear multiple times the Istari only appeared during the Third Age. They are in a completely different form during the First and Second Ages. Finally, there are no hints within the text that the Istari wandered Middle-earth before the Third Age. They didn't. The Maiar, on the other hand, did. What do you make of Payne's latest lie in regards to the Rings of Power? Oh, and that's it. By the way, that's a picture of a Balrog, which I believe is another Istar or Maiar. So there you go. So they tell fibs, don't they? Which we all knew anyway. They're stretching what they can get away with, and they're not getting away with it basically, are they? Because Rings of Power wasn't a good show. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it for what it was. A generic fantasy basically. But as a Tolkien, no, it didn't really work. Right, we'll move on. Some Star Wars news next. Right, Michelle Ridgwan steps down as Senior Vice President at Lucasfilm, returns to producing with overall deal at Lucasfilm and Walt Disney Studios. And there's a picture of her. Right, exclusive from Deadline. Michelle Ridgwan is leaving her post as Senior Vice President Live Action Development and Production at Lucasfilm. She's transitioning back to being a full-time producer and has signed an overall deal with Lucasfilm and Walt Disney Studios. So she's not really leaving, it's just like she's stepping down from a senior role and going back probably to what she likes doing best. She will continue to be based out of the Lucasfilm office and will develop for both Lucasfilm and Disney. Ridgwan most recently served as executive producer on Lucasfilm's series for Disney+, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor, and the upcoming series Willow for Disney+. In her new role, Ridgwan will continue as executive producer for the current Andor and upcoming Willow series. She's also attached as producer on upcoming Lucasfilm feature projects, including a Star Wars film written and directed by Taika Waititi. Is that ever going to happen? Prior to joining the Lucasfilm executive team in 2019, Michelle was part of the company's wider production family and served as producer on 2019 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker and co-producer on 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens. Ridgwan also spent 7 years at J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot in Los Angeles, where she served as co-producer on 2013 Star Trek Into Darkness and associate producer on 2011 Super 8, both directed by Abrams, and that's it. So she is a J.J. Abrams acolyte. The cinematic Antichrist is J.J. Abrams. Everything he touches just turns to poo. Yeah, it might make money and it might look good on screen. Competently produced, competently visualized. But the stories are just, cobbled together garbage. And she's one of those. And she got to Senior Vice President at Lucasfilm. So if you don't think that Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams have any influence on modern, on our favourite franchises, it's everywhere. Star Wars, what else? Star Trek. What else has he been involved with? Oh, now Lord of the Rings, because Payne and McKay were bad robot acolytes, before. Because they get everywhere. It's like a disease. Bad Robot's like a disease in Hollywood. And hopefully it's starting to, there must be some sort of vaccine against Bad Robot, because it seems to be starting to be alleviated. Because it got a deal, didn't it? Did J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, a $500 million deal with Warner Brothers. And he was supposed to be doing the new Superman film and all this other stuff with, is it Ta-Nehisi Coates? But apparently that's all gone by the wayside now, as we shall see in some more news coming up about Superman. So hopefully, and he's struggling now, apparently, to get work. I mean, he did this announcement about the Star Trek 4 movie without telling the cast and the crew, basically anybody. He just made the announcement to try and force Paramount's hand. And that didn't work, because it's been, shelved now. And I've heard that he's now caught in Apple for some sort of series or movies. I don't know, but he's trying to get his foot in the door at Apple. And hopefully they'll tell him to bog off, as they say. Right, so Michelle Ridgwan stepped down, so who will replace her? Will it be another Bad Robot acolyte? Or will it be somebody new? Is this the beginning of the end for Kathleen Kennedy? Is she going to... I think her contract ends next year, I think. I might be wrong. So could she be out the door? A lot of people have said that, and she never goes, does she? She hangs around. But we will see. Right, speaking of Superman, right, Blackadder, hang on, we've got to, can you get rid of that? There's video playing in the corner. Right, there we go. This is from the Daily Express. Black Adam boss confirms future for Henry Cavill Superman. It's much more. Black Adam's boss confirmed that the rumoured return of Henry Cavill as Superman will not be a one-off. By the way, I see you there, look. Suella Braverman steps down as Home Secretary. The British government is in turmoil again. I shouldn't be laughing, but it is funny. Oh, pardon me. Right, Black Adam is just hours away from hitting cinemas. I've seen a lot of adverts for if you go to watch Black Adam, you get a free Black Adam comic, apparently. But I'm not going to go see it, even if you do get a free comic. And knowing my look, by the time I got there, they'd have run out. So. Right, Black Adam is just hours away from hitting cinemas, but fans have already been given many details about what is coming. Dwayne Johnson, or is it Rock the Dwayne Johnson, or Dwayne the Rock Johnson, or Johnson the Rock Dwayne? Our Dwayne, as I call him, has been very open with fans of DC Comics that he's fighting for Superman to make a comeback, for good. And now one of the Black Adam producers, Hiram Garcia, has spoken up about Henry Cavill's triumphant return and what it means for the future of the franchise. Ooh, where are you going? There we go. After years out of the Cape, Johnson has all but confirmed... Is it more pop-ups? Look, sorry. Johnson has all but confirmed that Cavill will feature in Black Adam in some major way. Garcia teased this comeback further in a new interview by revealing the long-rumored battle between Black Adam and Superman will not just be a one-off event. Instead, he and his longtime creative partner Johnson, as in Dwayne Johnson, want to build something that will last. Garcia said, "No, it's about so much more than that. We really want to craft a long form of storytelling and show that these two characters exist in the same universe and are going to have to deal with each other often, either on the same or opposite sides." Garcia added, "Hopefully they're going to clash at some point, but it's not just about a one-fight situation. That was never our dream. That does not reward the fans. Fans want to feel a journey between these guys, knowing that these guys exist in the same universe." Johnson has been extremely clear in recent weeks that all the work he is doing for the DC franchise is for the fans. He recently stated, "I've been waiting for someone to step up and address the fans and say, 'Hey, we hear you.' So finally, after many months turned into many years, we ended up with what we ended up at." Johnson added that the whole goal and intention is to create a new era. Here's in Aquaman, is it? Now, he added, "Let's build out." Sick. As in a deliberate mistake. DC are no doubt chasing the kind of cinematic empire that Marvel have been working on for well over a decade, and Johnson confirmed as much on his Twitter account earlier this week. He told his fans, "Black Adam will serve as our phase one of storytelling in our DC universe. Exciting times for the brand to build up and build out." Cavill was last seen on the big screen as Superman in 2017's Justice League, one of Warner Bros.' supreme financial and critical flops. Black Adam hits cinemas tomorrow. So, yeah, so is this... I know Cavill was originally Superman in Zack Snyder's version of... the character and the DC extended universe. Is this a continuation of that, or are they redoing it, but just with the same actor playing the same character? But is he a new version of Superman? Is it like Man of Steel never happened? The movie Man of Steel, or is it continuing from that? I don't know, because apparently Man of Steel 2 is in development, but we shall get to that shortly. But but apparently it's not doing well with the critics, is it? The previews and the critic reviews are not really very good for Black Adam. But that could mean it could be a hit with the fans. That's usually the case, isn't it? The critics hate something, the fans love it, and vice versa. But we will see. I mean, The Rock is a draw. A lot of people say he's not as big of a star as is made out to be, but he's super charismatic, and he does draw people, particularly overseas, outside America, because he's a big star and he's super charismatic. He's got great screen presence, but he does just play the Rock, doesn't he? As much as he wants to call himself Dwayne Johnson, he does just play the Rock in everything he's in. It's a wonder he doesn't do the old "Can you smell?" It's a wonder he don't do that, isn't it? I bet he's dying to. Right, Man of Steel 2. did it. Man of Steel 2 is in development. Superman fans rejoice. Henry Cavill is back for the Man of Steel 2. These are just rumours, by the way. There should be no surprise that after the post-mid-credits scene in The Black Adam, that Warner Brothers is moving. See, I don't know about this. I've not seen it, so it's not out yet, is it? That Warner Brothers is moving forward with the sequel to Zack Snyder's The Man of Steel. So is that all he's in Black Adam? It's just in a mid-credits scene. Because the impression that I've got is that is in the film proper. Anyway. The Hollywood Reporter has the following. Warner has an intense desire to reprise the Cavill iteration of the hero. The project that would essentially be Man of Steel 2 is being produced by Charles Roven and is currently searching for writers. Let the speculation begin. Will Henry Cavill's Superman face off with Brainiac? Or maybe Metallo? I've never liked a lot of these names that DC characters have. They're really corny, aren't they? I have a gut feeling that they will reintroduce Lex Luthor. After all, Lex is Superman's Joker. You can't have one without the other. And there we go. That were a quick one. So it's just a rumour that Man of Steel 2 is in development. And they haven't even got writers or anything. It's in the very, very early stages, probably, of pre-production. But the talks have probably been going on with Henry Cavill. No doubt. Right, we're on to Star Trek now. Right, this is from Daily Star Trek News. Interview. Outright Games offer Daily Star Trek News exclusive details on the video game Star Trek Prodigy Supernova. Right. Well, I'm going to have to move that, won't I? If you're listening, I'm just moving my screen so that video viewers can read along with me. Right, October 18th. Right, family-friendly video game publisher Outright Games released their latest game based on a Star Trek property on Friday. Star Trek Prodigy Supernova is the first video game based on the kid-centric series. They keep saying that just because it's a Nickelodeon co-production, but it's not really. I wouldn't call it kid-centric. Yeah, kids can watch it, but I think it's more of a family thing. Like the proper Star Trek is, classic Star Trek. That's a family oriented adventure, isn't it? Anybody can watch it, and I think it's the same with Prodigy. Right, according to the press release, right, it's all in Klingon. Shall I try and read it in Klingon? Because I can't. Dach jach hof len wich hom pujacha John Ha. Outright Games, Nickelodeon, Paramount Consumer Products, Je Kodumve Yad Kuj Chen Moch. Outright Games. Hovling Vichom Pujacha Pluchom Hoch Paramount Plus Miloch Kol Hovlen Wuchom Kush Vishemo Hilnd Kuj. Am I doing well? Netelbach Tilvalach Goduch Nach Walesh. PlayStation 4. What does that R mean in the circle? Registered trademark. Dach PlayStation 5, Dach Nintendo Switch, Dach Xbox One, Dach Xbox XS, Dach Steam, Dach J4, Jehovleng, Vuchom Pujacha, Kujha Nuf Pu. God, it goes on, doesn't it? I'm not reading all that in Klingon. Anyway, they've got a... that's right, the entire press release was sent in Klingon. Don't know why, because is there any Klingons in Star Trek Prodigy? But don't worry, if you haven't got Mark Okraner's Klingon dictionary at hand, Daily Star Trek News managed to get the skinny on the game from the creators in Federation Standard. Kapla! Which means success in Klingon, I know that. Right, what's the game's storyline? The story starts a new adventure for the Protostar crew. When the Protostar picks up strange readings from a dying star, Dal and Gwyn are thrown into adventures where they must race against time to save their friends, their ship, and an entire planetary system before a supernova destroys them all. With the help of Hologram Janeway, they must save their captured crewmates Jankum Pog, Rock Tack, Zero and Murph and make first contact with a new species. There's a deadly new enemy that threatens their success, one that will stop at nothing to destroy the Protostar and change the very course of history. Did Outright Games approach Paramount and Nickelodeon about doing the game, or was it the other way around? Is everybody on the team a Star Trek fan? We're in the interview now, by the way. Outright Games have been very good partners with Nickelodeon for many years now, as we specialise in making fantastic family content. When we were discussing upcoming projects, we were both excited to collaborate on this and bring a truly interactive experience in the Star Trek universe. That can be enjoyed by all ages. We have many Trekkies on our teams, and we're able to connect with the talented development team at Tessera Studios that shared our passion and vision. When in the timeline of the series does the game take place? What we found when working with the Star Trek teams, Nickelodeon and Paramount, is that there's a window in Series 1 where there is a time jump. We chose to explore the story during this period, where we meet a new species and explore a new system. We get to bring along the backstory of our characters and hint at what's to come. But we get to be our own story that's standalone for anybody to jump in and enjoy. Who wrote the script and who directed it? How much direction was needed for the voice actors who already know their characters so well? The script was a collaborative effort between the game developers at Tessera Studios and the acclaimed games writer Martin Corder, with the creative support and editing done by Lisa S. Boyd, the writer of the Prodigy series. Brooke Chalmers, the multi-talented voice director from the Prodigy series, handled the VO direction for this game alongside the Outright Games producers and was instrumental to us getting the characters to feel natural in the game. The actors are a stellar crew and were able to help us build authentic conversations within our story. Brooke's unrivaled familiarity with the series and passion for video games helped them focus in on getting the best performance for this interactive experience. Describe the gameplay. Hope this doesn't go on too long. The game is full of hostile enemies, gorgeous environments, puzzles, challenges and mysteries to solve. Just read that off the back of the case, haven't you? You can play as Dal and Gwyn, either solo or in two-player cooperative mode. Dal is more of a long-range fighter, wielding dual phasers in combat, whereas Gwyn is an up-close and personal melee fighter. Each has their own play style, unique weapons and upgrades, so there's lots of options in how you choose to play the game. Is it single player only, or is there a cooperative element? He's just told you that. Can it be played online with friends? The game can be played in single player or local two-player co-op. It's just said further up there. Aren't you paying attention? We wanted to really lean... I bet it was an interview done over the email. I bet it was. Just sent some questions. We wanted to really lean into that close connection of sitting on the couch with your family and friends and embarking on this grand adventure. In single player, you can switch at will, and the other character is AI controlled, assisting in both combat and puzzle solving, perfect for when you want to quickly jump in by yourself and replay a mission to uncover even more secrets. Is the whole crew available to control, or just certain characters? Can the player choose? Do certain characters get unlocked later in the game? In games of this type, usually different characters have different skills and abilities. What skills does each character possess? As well as directly controlling Dal and Gwyn, players can call on the rest of the crew, Jank and Pog, Rock, Tack, Zero, Murph, and for their skills and abilities, but you have to find and rescue them first. So, no, you can't play as them, then you can just call on them and they'll come and do things. Like, I need you to open this door, and they'll do it. That'll be what it is. As mentioned before, Dal can dual-wield phasers, for example, and has useful skills for exploring the environments. Gwyn is more agile and partial to melee combat, as she can use fretwork, like on a guitar. Her living weapon tool she controls with her mind for help during battle and in puzzles. The rest of the crew have meaningful support roles. That I just said. The crewmates are needed to assist with exploration. There we go. I.e., we need Jankum to open certain doors. See, I should write games. Or Rocktack to use her engineering knowledge to upgrade abilities and her size to smash things like walls, for example. They can assist in combat, as well as unlock secret areas that hide collectibles, so you'll need to replay certain levels to find everything. Their combat abilities can be upgraded through certain missions in the holodeck. Do Dreadnought and the Diviner make appearances in the game? What role do they have to play, if any? We prefer not to spoil any surprises. Uncovering the mystery is part of the fun. Does that mean yes? We will say there is a bit of a twist to the antagonist and their motivations related to the history of the Vonakat. I don't know. Was that in the series? I can't remember. Right, how long do you estimate it will take to play through the game? It takes about 12 hours to complete the game's narrative, with another 5 hours or so to see 100% of the content, including the collectibles and upgrades. Anything else you'd like to add? We hope fans, both new and seasoned, enjoy this Star Trek experience and hope that players enjoy the Star Trek lore, relics and cheats that they'll need to unlock. Star Trek Prodigy Supernova is available now on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Series S and Steam. And that's it. So, yeah, that's interesting. I do quite like Prodigy, I must admit. It's not really Star Trek, to be honest. It doesn't have a Star Trek feel to me. There's the launch trailer. But I'm glad I didn't read all that Klingon. I'd have been... my throat would have been sore for a while. But yeah, I'll check out the game. Hopefully it's not super expensive, or maybe it'll appear on the PlayStation Plus for free. I'll have to check it out, and hopefully it is either free or radically reduced in price. Keep hearing noises. We've got a ghost. Right, so that's that. So that looks an interesting game. Hopefully, if it is designed for kids, maybe I can play it, because I'm rubbish at games. I am. I'm terrible. I used to be quite good, but being an old Yorkshire geek, I'm not very good anymore. Right. And the final story, we're sticking with Star Trek. This is from Collider. Are they still going? Obviously. Robert Englund inspired Heather Langenkamp to wear prosthetics in Star Trek Into Darkness. I didn't even know you were in it. The Nightmare on Elm Street final girl says she'd always wanted to wear prosthetics after watching Robert Englund do it in their 80s horror series. You'll likely know that horror icon Heather Langenkamp, who I've met, by the way, at a convention, and she's lovely, from her iconic final girl role as Nancy Thompson in the 1980s slasher franchise A Nightmare on Elm Street. Langenkamp, hope I'm pronouncing that properly, has recently re-entered the horror stratosphere with her standout role in Mike Flanagan and Leah Fong's latest Netflix series, The Midnight Club. Ooh, I didn't know about that. Is it new? Is that new? I'll have to look that up. What you may not know is that in the years between these two iconic roles, Langenkamp made a brief appearance in another legendary franchise, Star Trek. Excuse me, I'm getting a bit hoarse. Oh, crikey. There we go. Where were we? The actress recently sat down with Collider's Perry Nemiroff for an interview. I hope she got her bangs on. I haven't seen Perry for a while. As I said, I thought Collider had shut down, to be honest. Collider's Perry Nemiroff for an interview in which she told Nemiroff about her time in the Kelvin-verse movie Star Trek Into Darkness, which is a bloody terrible film. I hated it. Right, for a bit of context, Langenkamp and her husband, David Leroy Anderson, own and operate the award-winning makeup effects company AFX Studio in California. Quote, so my husband is the designer. He designs everything, and then we have a crew that helps us make everything. Mould makers, painters, hair punchers, feather layers, every kind of crazy craft in the industry, Langenkamp told Nemiroff. Oh, pardon me. Coffee. I blame it. Fresh air makes me burp, it does. I'm more of the manager of the company, she continued. I make sure people are coming in and doing their jobs. I'm not really that involved in the artistry of it, but I am there every day. See, I'm at it again, look. In the 1980s, hang on, can you read that? Scroll down a bit, there we go. In the 1980s, Langenkamp appeared opposite Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the threequel, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and the seventh film in the franchise, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. During her chat with Nemiroff, the actress told Collider that she'd always wanted to wear prosthetic makeup because watching Robert Englund do it so much, and it wasn't easy, and I knew that as an actor, it's just a fun thing to get to wear a big prosthetic makeup. And then there's a photo, which we'll come back to. For those listening, I will describe it. Luckily, when J.J. Abrams' Star Trek sequel came around in 2013, Langenkamp finally got her chance. AFX did the makeup effects for the film, and when production decided they needed a few more aliens in a particular scene, Langenkamp was ready to step in. She told Nemiroff, I played that character Moto, that had been made for me for another project, actually, and we just kind of had it laying around, and they just wanted some more creatures in this particular scene. So David said, well, we can put Heather in this makeup. It was 5 hours of makeup. It was a lot of makeup, and my father-in-law, Lance Anderson, who is also a makeup effects artist, he applied it, and it was a really special day for me because I had my father-in-law doing my makeup, and it looked fantastic, and I loved it. And unfortunately, it's not in the film very long, but it was a very special makeup. You got lucky if you wanted it very long. You can watch the terrible Star Trek Into Darkness on Paramount Plus, and Nightmare on Elm Street is available on HBO Max, and Langenkamp's latest performance in The Midnight Club is now streaming on Netflix. I'm going to check that out. Check out Nemirov's blah, 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 blah. Right, so the picture I promised. If you're watching on video, you can see it. There she is. I didn't even know she were in it. Obviously, this is unrecognisable, but some sort of green alien with like a elongated cranium and a beaker-like mouth. That beaker from the Muppets. But human eyes, I suppose they kind of have to, don't they? But there you go. And I presume is that her husband or her father-in-law? I don't know. I presume it's her husband. Standing over her proudly, smiling. But Star Trek Into Darkness were a bloody awful film. It was terrible. But Heather Langenkamp's a lovely woman. Met her at a convention once, and she was really nice and kind and patient. So there you go. So that's the news for today. Various things we had there, didn't we? We had Lord of the Rings and a bit of Star Wars and a bit of DC and a bit of Star Trek. No news on Stargate yet. There's lots of rumours floating around, apparently. My friend Jay over at SciTrek, he gets a lot of information. So if you want to go check out SciTrek on YouTube, go check that out. Obviously go to Gate World, they have the latest news, don't they? Just thought I'd get a Stargate plug in there, even because there's no news. And Doctor Who's coming back in it soon. Is it a couple of weeks or is it the end of this month, a week or so? I don't know when it is. Jodie Whittaker's finale, when she transforms into that other fella. So that's coming up, isn't it? But anyway, that's enough of the news for today. So we'll leave it there. So, wherever you are, in the galaxy, or the universe beyond, or in the multiverse even, speaking of superheroes and DC and Marvel and all that. I suppose even Star Wars has a multiverse now, doesn't it, with the world between worlds. But anyway, whatever. Wherever you are, in those places, look after each other. And until next time, I'll say this.